Pick it up at verse 13. When Jesus heard what had happened, he withdrew by boat privately to a solitary place. Hearing of this, the crowds followed him on foot from the towns. When Jesus landed and saw a large crowd, he had compassion on them and healed their sick. As evening approached, the disciples came to him and said, "This is a remote place and it's already getting late. Send the crowds away so they can go to the villages and buy themselves some food." Jesus replied, "They do not need to go away. You give them something to eat." "We have here only 5 loaves of bread and 2 fish," they answered. "Bring them here to me," he said, and he directed the people to sit down on the grass. Taking the 5 loaves and the 2 fish and looking up to heaven, he gave thanks and broke the loaves. Then he gave them to the disciples, and the disciples gave them to the people. They all ate and were satisfied, and the disciples picked up 12 basketfuls of broken pieces that were left over. The number of those who ate was about 5,000 men, besides women and children. So it starts out here, and it says that when Jesus heard about John the Baptist, he withdrew to a private, solitary place. Jesus and John the Baptist were cousins. Okay, so this was a loss in the family. But more important than that, Jesus loved John, and he valued John's ministry. The indication is that Jesus wanted to get away from the people and the pressures of ministry, so he and his disciples got in a boat and tried to get away to a solitary place. Now, how much alone time do you need? How many of you need a lot of alone time? Yeah? How many of you feel like you don't need much alone time? Okay. Different temperaments, different personalities and makeups require different amounts of time to recharge. All right? How many of you would consider yourself an extrovert, an outgoing person? Yeah. Okay. How many of you would consider yourself an introvert? Right? Yeah. Introverts tend to need more alone time. Okay? The way I primarily understand the difference between introverts and extroverts is extroverts get energy from being with people. Introverts expend energy by being with people. Okay? And so if you're an introvert, you need time alone to recharge that battery. Well, I don't know, Jesus was an introvert or an extrovert. He was perfect, probably, So he was both, or he was neither, or he was right in the middle. I don't know how you define that. But he wanted to be alone. He wanted to be alone. And we see at other times in the Gospels where he wanted to withdraw from the crowds and pull back and wanted to spend some time alone. So you need to know how much alone time you need. Next question, how can you tell whether you are being lazy or recharging your batteries? Question I try and ask myself, I probably don't do a good job of asking it enough. Question I try and ask myself is this: what is the best use of my time now? Sometimes the best use of my time right now is to just chill. Sometimes the very best use of my time is to be with my wife. Sometimes the very best use of my time is to be doing sermon work. Sometimes the very best use of my time is to be praying. Sometimes the very best use of my time is to take a nap. Right? So I think that you have to, and you take that before the Lord. You answer that question before the Lord. What's the very best use of my time now? And then that's what I want to be doing. And the Lord knows me. He knows my personality. He knows my temperament. He knows my makeup. He knows how I need to spend my time for me to be the best Christ-like me I can possibly be. But I just think that's a question that we need to ask ourselves. I think if we don't answer that question and ask it and answer it honestly, I think we can get into all kinds of problems. Because I think then we can begin to live our lives according to either somebody else's schedule for me or a schedule made by my insecurities. And neither of those are good or healthy or Christ honoring. Okay?